Reality of the situation is, along with who's better, Kobe or LeBron, who are we going to support in the presidential election, whose mixtape dropped.
Right.
This is the conversation that men, and particularly black men, need to be having. It needs to be top of mind. It needs to be top of focus for people in all communities, but particularly the African American community. So when we go in the barbershop, when we're talking, with our friends, we need to be asking questions. Hey man, did you know about the black maternal health crisis? Not only that, then having a subsequent conversation about what we are doing as men to show up in more intentional, deliberate ways.
Yes. Hello and welcome to the Barbershop, where we come in and have amazing conversations, where we come in to recharge, refresh, revive, reflect, and leave that space looking better and feeling better and being better than when we came in. Today, I have the incredible pleasure of talking to the one, the only Charles Johnson. And he is the founder of 4Kira4Moms. And I'm really excited about the conversation that we're about to have today. So y'all ready? Charles, welcome.
Tony, thank you for having me, man.
May I call you Charles?
Absolutely.
Because you more like the king.
Oh, stop that, man.
No,
stop
I'm
that.
telling
Stop
the
that.
truth.
Listen,
I'm telling the truth.
praise.
You
I
are the
appreciate
man.
it. Oh, listen. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. No, it's an honor to be here. Look, I've been in a lot of barbershops. I've never been in one this nice. This is plush, man.
That's because
y'all don't cut no corners, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
People deserve special experiences.
My man, look, y'all not gonna be able to get rid of me.
So Charles, let's start from the beginning. Okay, talk to me a little bit. Tell me your story.
Yeah, so I'm a native of Atlanta. I fancy myself an advocate, a dad. I kind of call myself a dadvocate. And I really, through a set of life experiences that I never saw coming, have been thrust into a path for my life that I never anticipated either. And really the genesis and the inspiration for my work, Tony, is, like I say oftentimes, I was fortunate enough to meet a woman that absolutely changed my life, right? And so I've been tremendously blessed, but the best decision I ever made was making Kira Dixon Kira Johnson, right? And so when we talk about my wife, another native of Atlanta, true Georgia Peas, grew up right in Decatur. We're talking about a woman that spoke 5 languages fluently, right? A woman that had her pilot's license. She was an avid skydiver. I'm not talking about the tandem. I'm talking about the one that jumped out by herself, right? She would go skydiving like certain people went for jogs. And people who know me know that she was really way out of my league, right? And she just really challenged me to be a better man in every single aspect of my life. I always wanted to be a dad. Always wanted to be a dad. And so we welcomed our first son, Charles V, right? Which is just even cool. I still cheese, this big cheesy smile when I even think about that, having, a fifth of our lineage, right? In 2014. And we always talked about how cool it would be to have back-to-back boys. These kind of built-in best friends who grew up just challenging each other. And so when we found out we were welcoming Langston, our second son, in 2016, you couldn't tell us nothing, man. Like, we were over the moon and just thrilled, man. And I was always the diplomatic one. I was like, I don't care what the gender is, just give me a healthy child. By the time Kira played that game the first go round with Charles, by the time we got to Langston, she was clear she was a boy's mama. Like, she didn't want to do no hair. She wanted to scream at the top of her lungs at soccer games and basketball. That was what she was. So when she found out she was having a second boy, couldn't tell her nothing. Throughout Kira's entire pregnancy, it's important to understand that she just wasn't in good health. She was in exceptional health, right? This is a woman who ran marathons, and all signs pointed to her and our new son both being extremely healthy. We went in for what was supposed to be a routine scheduled C-section at our doctor's recommendation. The delivery was at 2 o'clock. Kira goes in. Langston is born perfectly healthy, 10 fingers, 10 toes. And so this is it, right? Like, everything we hoped for, everything we had prayed for is finally here, right? This other, just perfect, just gift was here, and our family was complete. And so shortly after that, they take us back to recovery, which is normal in a cesarean delivery. And I'm just sitting there, just soaking it all in, right? All that pride of becoming a dad for the second time. And as I'm sitting there, she's resting, Langston is resting, and I'm just really just sitting there just with this immense pride and just joy. And as I'm watching her rest, I look down and I see blood coming from her catheter at her bedside. So at this point, I'm frustrated, I'm exhausted, but part of me is relieved. They've got her in the bed and we're mobilized and we're going towards the OR. And at this point, Kira is very weak, but she's conscious and she's aware of everything that's going on. And this is a woman, like I told you, who raced cars, who was fearless. And we're walking, she said to me something else that I don't ever remember her saying. I'm holding her hand, I'm trying to tell her everything's gonna be okay. And she says to me, baby, I'm scared. I'm scared. And at that point, I just did the only thing I knew to do is just, as a husband, is to tell her everything's gonna be okay, everything's gonna be fine, it's gonna be fine. So finally I get to the end of this hallway, the doors open to the operating room, and they close behind her. And when those doors closed behind Kira, that was the last time I saw her alive. When they took her back into the operating room and they opened her up, there were 3 liters of blood in her abdomen. I'm always transparent, Tony, about the fact that when I walked into that hospital that day, the thought that my wife would not walk out to raise her boys, it never crossed my mind. It never crossed my mind. And of course, my world was turned upside down. And now I'm responsible for these amazing gifts that she's left us. And I'm trying to figure out what happened, why it happened, but more importantly, how I'm going to move forward in a way that is consistent with what the dreams that we had.
Right.
But as I'm working to put the pieces back together, Tony, I begin to hear all these other stories of women who had had horrific birthing experiences and mothers who had experienced obstetric violence. And then all these other stories of other women who had made the ultimate sacrifice, giving the gift of life. And first, I'm gonna be honest, when I first started hearing these stories, keep in mind, this is 2016, I was thinking to myself, hold on, this is just people's way of trying to connect with me in my grief. But as I continued to hear them, I'm thinking something just isn't right. And that's when I began to do the research for myself and came to understand what I know a lot of us understand, including yourself, understand that we are in the midst of a maternal mortality crisis right here in our country that's shameful.
Right. Let's stick there for a second, because this tragic incident, and first of all, so sorry for the loss, and so sorry for what you've had to endure.
Yeah.
But it became the impetus, if you will, to really utilize this opportunity in a way that I don't know that many others would have. Wow. You have gone from, being this husband and father to really be focused on maternal health and being an advocate for that.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty amazing.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the advocacy piece. You just mentioned some staggering statistics that's out here, and I would suggest that so many people have no idea that this is the case. But you did your research, and it led you to this, to 4Kira4Moms.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit, about, you're doing this research, and all of a sudden it becomes it becomes the impetus for you to do something.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think so. For me, when I kind of had this epiphany, this enlightenment about, one, I was blown away by 2 things. One, how is this happening? Mm-hmm. And then 2, how is it that everybody is outraged by this? Right. How is this even happening in our country? And so, before this, I was a very private person. I never even had social media before this. But I felt like I had to do something. I didn't know what, but I felt like I had to try and do something. And I felt like I owed it to Kira, and I felt like I owed it to my boys. And so I made the decision to share Kira's story publicly for the first time the Friday before Mother's Day in 2017. So a little bit over a year after she passed. naively thinking that, if somebody wrote an article, that would be a win. Just me sharing Kira's story, helping to elevate awareness, and if that somehow prevented what happened to our family from happening to other families,
Right.
that would be success. Not understanding, having a clue how Kira's story would resonate with people, and how Kira's story would help become a catalyst for what I believe is a maternal health revolution in our country. And so we founded 4Kira4Moms, which is a nonprofit organization, and we have a clear mission. It's not simply to improve maternal health outcomes, Tony. It is to eradicate the maternal health crisis in our country, period, full stop, whatever that takes.
Yes.
And so we've had the good fortune to be involved in shaping policy on the federal and the state level, helping to serve and support families that have been impacted by maternal loss, and then also working with people in the private sector to help reimagine how they approach supporting families, shaping benefits. And so we're proud of some of the things that we've done, but we have a lot of work to do.
I love this, and for me, you are an example of how we all can and should be playing a role when it comes to maternal health, when it comes to mothers. We all have a role. And so I'd like to talk about that a little bit. About, while we here in the barbershop.
Let's go.
When we're in the barbershop, we talking all that kind of men stuff. Who, best basketball team. Who's the best, football player that's ever been around. But we also talk about some serious stuff.
Yes.
And so let's get real. Talk to me a little bit about the role that we as men should be playing when it comes to maternal health advocacy, because I would argue that for many of us, it doesn't even cross our mind. We don't even, it's their issue. It's never our issue.
There you go.
The reality is that it is.
Absolutely. So, Tony, you couldn't have framed this conversation any better, because the reality of the situation is, along with who's better, Kobe or LeBron, who are we going to support in the presidential election, right?
Right.
Whose mixtape drops?
Right.
This is the conversation that men, and particularly black men, need to be having. It needs to be top of mind. It needs to be top of focus for people in all communities, but particularly the African-American community. So when we go in the barbershop, when we're talking, with our friends, we need to be asking questions. Hey, man, did you know about the black maternal health crisis? Did you have any clue that black women are dying 5 times as often as white women?
Right.
Not only that, then having a subsequent conversation about what we are doing as men to show up in more intentional, deliberate ways.
Yes.
And to dive down into that topic a little bit more, first of all, it's the right thing to do as men, right? We have to get beyond this stereotypical reasoning that it's the man's job to just sit out in the waiting room at the cigars and high five.
Right.
When the baby arrives. Right. Men have to be intentional about the manner in which they show up to support before, during, and after childbirth.
Yes.
That critical fourth trimester is almost arguably the most important part, right? So having conversations about what family planning looks like, right? Preconception, about what reproductive health looks like. Having those things. When we're moving towards, creating a family, what are we doing and how are we selecting a provider? Being involved in that process, understanding what questions to ask. If and when you can, if you are a husband or a partner, I would encourage you to go to as many prenatal visits as you possibly can. If your work schedule or there are dynamics that don't allow that to happen, you send your partner or your wife with a question to ask on your behalf. Let them know while they're asking their questions, you know what, Doc, my husband would like to know. That does 2 things. That shows that you are a unified front. Right. That he may not be here, but he's here. And we are a family. Right. Understanding what your partner or your wife's birth plan desires are. Okay? Then understanding how to advocate for her in the event that she's not able to advocate for herself.
Right.
What does demanding a second opinion look like? What are our patients' Bill of Rights? And
Yes,
these are a lot of the things that we as an organization work to empower all families, but particularly Black men with as they go into these situations, because we can show up and we can do things that can make this the likelihood that you receive the safe, dignified birthing experience that you deserve better.
So Charles, let me ask. Let's continue on that track. So you've provided us with some thoughts when it comes to families, a couple, that's going through this journey together. Is there a role for other men who are not?
Excellent question.
Who are not, not involved with anyone, not expecting a child, not directly involved in this journey?
Sure.
Is there a role for us who are not in that journey that we should be playing?
Absolutely. I think that there's a place for every single man in this journey, even if you are not actively involved in creating a family. One, raising awareness, having these conversations, because the reality of the situation, like I say, Tony, there are two types of people in this country. Either you are a mama or you got one. Right? So you may not be starting a family, but you know somebody that is. Making sure that we're raising awareness. And then making sure that we're being advocates for the issue at large, right? When we talk about how we spend our money, when we talk about how we are intentional with our vote, are we supporting candidates, regardless of what your political affiliation is, that are making intentional strides to improve maternal health outcomes in our country.
Right.
These are things that all men can help to raise the tide for maternal health in our country.
I love it, Charles. Charles, where can we find you? Are you on social media? Where is it that we can find you in the work that you're doing?
No, absolutely. Thank you for that. So you can find us at 4Kira4Moms.com and 4Kira4Moms on all social media. So it's the number 4, Kira, the number 4, MOMS. So kind of just like this, like 4Kira4Moms.
I love it.
Right.
I love it.
All social media, 4Kira4Moms.com as well.
That's great.
Thank you.
Charles, thank you so much for being in the barbershop, hanging out with me. It's been real. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling fresh right now. I'm feeling revived. I'm feeling, recharged. You've given me a lot to reflect on, and so I thank you for that.
My honor.
And I hope, ladies and gentlemen, that you've enjoyed this time at the barbershop. I hope that you all are leaving better than when you came in. I know I have. I know I will be leaving better than how I came in. I hope the same thing has happened for you. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I really, am asking you all to like and to share. Really want to hear comments. Would love to get your feedback. And share with somebody who you think this would be of benefit to. And last but not least, subscribe. Hook a brother up, please. And with that, I'll see y'all later.